what's your thoughts on Aiyuk? You're the one who asked John Lynch the question that I think has been the pivotal moment of this offseason. I mean, it's really kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But you gave him an opportunity to be like, yeah, Brandon Aiyuk ain't going anywhere, man. And he could have put the whole thing to bed and there would be no speculation. And instead he poured gas on the fire and he gave all kinds of, added all kinds of credence to the idea that Aiyuk's going to be dealt.
Yeah.
Kawakami came out in his piece in the San Francisco Standard in the last week and said Aiyuk could be dealt at any moment. The people of Cleveland think he's going there. Greg Bedard thinks he's going to New England. There's people in Carolina that think he's going there. I think he's going just because I think the one factor, I think the Niners are willing to, they want that $110 million so bad of Jed's money that I think they're going to be willing to take, some day 3 package of picks. I've seen a lot of different trade him for a third, trade him for this guy, trade him for that guy. To me, it's interesting. I mean, New England has 3 picks in the 7th round. The Browns have 4 picks in the 6th round. I think that's the reservoir of picks that the Niners are shopping from for Aiyuk. And I think he goes before April 1st to one of those 2 teams for multiple picks on day 3. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
Where are you on Aiyuk? Because you were standing right there. You asked the question. You looked Lynch in the eyes when he gave you the answer. So you probably have a better feel for where they're at with this than maybe I do even. What's your takeaway on Aiyuk and how it's going to end itself?
The crazy thing too with that answer from Lynch, when I asked him that question, he revealed everything that the Niners were about to do. He said, we need to get younger and we need to shed some salary. That's everything that the 49ers have done so far in free agency. And right after that, Grant asked him about trading away Deebo Samuel. And he said, we're still not in the business of getting rid of good football players, but we're going to honor that trade request. That was on Wednesday that Lynch addressed the media. Deebo Samuel was gone on Saturday. And so you think about everything that the Niners have done, right? If they want to get younger, if they want to shed some salary, if John Lynch had every opportunity to say, no, we're not trading Brandon Aiyuk, and he didn't, that tells me they're taking calls. Because the question I asked him, I said, there's a report here in Indianapolis that multiple teams are interested in trading Brandon Aiyuk. Are you interested in trading Brandon Aiyuk, and what's his health status? And he didn't answer the health status part until later, but he didn't shoot it down at all. And so there's that April 1st roster bonus that is due. It makes absolutely no sense if the Niners were to trade him after April 1st, because April 1st triggers them having to give him a lot of money. What is it, $14 to $16 million that he would be due automatically on April 1?
I think it might be $22 million.
Is it? Yeah, something along those lines, right? It's a lot of money. And so here we are recording this live show March 21st. I think a decision has to be made prior to April 1st. And the Niners have to learn their lesson from what they didn't do last year. They had to know what they were going to do at wide receiver before the NFL draft, and they messed that up. They could have also signed Aiyuk to $25 million per year. That's what Devontae Smith got paid by the Eagles. Then Jalen Waddle got 27. And then other wide receivers got 30 and 33 and 34. And then the market got all messed up for Aiyuk. So make the decision before April 1st. I think there are a couple of teams that really come to mind. It's the Cleveland Browns, because especially if they take Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders with their pick, they need wide receiver talent. You can bring Aiyuk in alongside Jerry Jeudy. In that Kevin Stefanski offense, you have to imagine they're going to find success on the ground, and they're going to have a pretty solid defense because they always do. They need another wide receiver. The New England Patriots still don't have a wideout. Kendrick Bourne is their number 1. They signed Matt Collins. They have Keyshawn Butte. They are not good enough at wide receiver, and they still have a lot of money to pay. And last year, they showed a lot of interest in Aiyuk. They offered him $34 million per year. And Aiyuk said, I'm not going to New England. Well, now he signed that deal, and it's not like he has a no-trade clause. He doesn't. He can be traded. And the Patriots showed interest in him previously. They haven't been able to land a T. Higgins because he signed with Cincinnati. They couldn't land DK Metcalf. He got traded to Pittsburgh. And now they're left with Drake May going into year 2. They want to capitalize and maximize him being on that rookie contract. That's the formula for teams who draft quarterbacks. And they can't expect Drake May to make it work with Kendrick Bourne, Matt Collins, Keyshawn Butte. They could make the trade for Brandon Aiyuk, and for the Niners, they could get out of that Aiyuk contract, and that fits everything that John Lynch said. Shedding salary, getting younger, and never turning down an Aiyuk trade at the time.
Couple last thoughts before we jet for the door. What percentage chance would you put it that the Niners trade Brandon Aiyuk?
I think it's like 70%.
Okay, I agree. I think it even. Yeah. I think I'm convinced. I mean, I would say I'm convinced more like 80, 85%, but I'll go with 70.
I think they've really regretted it so far with how he handled it too. There was those leaks that there are still people in the organization that disagree with his approach last year. And then he got hurt. His body language sucked. His play sucked. He was out of shape. Then he had that weird practice scuffle with Kyle Shanahan where he wore the wrong shorts. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's seriously, what percentage chance would you say the 49ers wind up trading Brock Purdy?
I would say like 10%. I think they get a deal done with Brock Purdy. They know that they need a quarterback, and everything that they've said leads me to believe that they think he's that guy.
Is there a creative addition, either signing, draft, or trade, that you think is out there for the Niners to make? It hasn't necessarily been talked about a lot, but you think it's a beneath the radar kind of move. And I bring this up because I've seen in the last 48 hours, I've seen trade rumors around Garrett Wilson. I've seen trade rumors around Trayvon Walker in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I kind of think both those guys would be good for the 49ers. I think Garrett Wilson is exactly the receiver the Niners need. And I think Trayvon Walker could really, in this situation, next to Bosa on Chris Kasarek's line in this wide 9, I think he could have a career renaissance that even is better than what Laken Tomlinson enjoyed when the Niners traded for him as a bust of a first-round pick. And then I think they gave a 5th or something like that to Detroit. Laken had a couple really good years here. I think Trayvon Walker could really be special with the Niners. But is there a player that you see either, as I said, draft, trade, free agent, or I guess those are the 3 areas that you would like to see the Niners potentially try to go after?
A couple of things. If they traded away Brandon Aiyuk, that could open up the door for them to take Garrett Wilson, because this wide receiver class is not good at all. It's very thin, which is very rare because nowadays in the NFL draft, usually there's a lot of wide receiver talent. So if they trade Aiyuk away, look out for a Garrett Wilson trade, because they would have to sign him to a contract extension. And he's that type of man beater that Aiyuk was when he was a second-team All-Pro in 2023. Robert Saleh, obviously very familiar with him as well. For Trayvon Walker, I didn't like the pick to take him ahead of Aiden Hutchinson a few years ago. And I think that Hutchinson is still the better player. But Trayvon Walker has had 10 and 10.5 sacks the last 2 years. And he can rush the passer as a stand-up edge rusher with his hand in the dirt. He can defend the run. He's only 24 years old. I think he's only scratching the surface of what he can become. And I think that he would be a monster addition, because I think his best football is ahead of him. And the trade package and the contract extension would not be as rich as it would have been for a Myles Garrett, or it is right now for a Trey Hendrickson or a Micah Parsons. So that would be interesting. The Stanford wide receiver, Aiyuk Manor, I think is how you say his name.
Manor, I believe.
Yeah, he is a dog, and he has really good size. The Niners showed a lot of interest in him, and he ran very well at the combine. Anytime I watched him at Stanford, he made ridiculous contested catches. Underrated athlete, went up and got it. Really good red zone threat. But with that speed, I think that he can be more than that. It wouldn't surprise me if the Niners took him in the second round. It wouldn't surprise me if the Niners traded back in the first round to try to move up in the second, or move up into the back end of the first. And then I think a lot of this money that's being not used right now and saved could be given to Purdy, Kittle, and Warner for contract extensions. So those are some moves that come to mind that the Niners could pull off.
I think I got a video idea for you, Chase, for later today. My good friend Matt Bowen from ESPN, talked a little bit about in an article about how the Niners, in his opinion, should try to make a trade with the Eagles for Bryce Huff, who did have 10 sacks in 2023 for the Jets under Robert Saleh. The Eagles probably regret signing Huff. They gave him 3 years, $51.1 million last offseason. He managed guaranteed. 2.5 sacks. He missed 5 weeks with a torn ligament in the wrist. He got activated in late December, but was inactive for Super Bowl 59. Saleh spent 3 years working with Huff. He was really good for Robert Saleh. What would it take? The Niners badly need as much help as they can possibly find anywhere and everywhere on the defensive line. They can't look away from anybody. The Eagles are probably looking to get off of Huff. What's the price tag if the Niners come calling on Bryce Huff?
I think the Eagles just want to get out of that contract. I think that you can have him for a 5th-round pick because you're going to have to pay him a little bit of coin. And Vic Fangio didn't like him right from the jump. I mean, he played him deep into the preseason, and he wasn't a part of the first-team defense in training camp. He used him as a stand-up edge rusher. That's not what he's comfortable doing. He's more comfortable in that three-point stance where he can put his hand in the dirt and allows him to get that fast get off. Pretty cool developmental story for the Jets. I mean, he was a UDFA out of Memphis. And then his final year in 2023, he had 10 sacks and more than 40 pressures while playing around 50% of the snaps. And so I think Robert Saleh really likes him. And I think that that's great value. Now, again, you have to pay him, but you have some money right now. You have available cap space where if you want to get better at edge, you bring in a player who Robert Saleh really likes. He's not great against the run. That could cause hesitations for San Francisco. But that's a player who I think Saleh could get back on track and get his confidence back.
Yeah, no, I think Bryce Huff, change of scenery might be exactly what the doctor ordered. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Chase, what do you got cooking the rest of the day? Oh, let's hit our 2 supers here as well. We got this one from Daza. I keep hearing people comparing Brock to recently paid quarterbacks just because they overpaid for mediocre quarterbacks. Why should the Niners make the same mistake? It's called the market.
It's the going rate.
Market. Yeah, it's the going rate. Go into your job and tell them that, that you want to make as much as the other people. And that's going to sound probably like a normal request. But when you put it out there with Purdy, it's like, why should they pay him because other guys are paying their quarterback too much? What's the market? It's the market. It's the precedent that's been set. Jerry Martinez, his 2 first-round picks for Purdy would only get them quarterback hell. If Purdy gets traded, I'm going with him to whatever team he's going to. That's a good one. Yes, Jerry, don't go. Stay with us. Chase, what do you got cooking the rest of the day over at Chat Sports?
Yeah, just going to continue to push out some great Niners content. Right before I hopped on here with you, talked about that Mike Garafolo report on Brock Purdy. So check that video out, and then we'll have great content to come throughout the weekend. And the NFL draft's going to be here in a little more than a month. So a lot of draft content to come over the next few weeks as the NFL calendar, it never dies down, and it doesn't sleep outside of like a little bit of June and July. But that's it at this point.
Cheeseball. Larry knows deep down inside Brock is not him, too. Brock is him, Cheeseball. He is him. No, I don't know. Who knows? I think he's the best they got, and I think it's time to pay him and roll the dice and build this thing up. And the question is, do you think John Lynch is pressing? You heard that line, and you know Lynch a little bit. Do you think he's pressing, Chase? Because he was like, hey, there's this thing called the draft, and it was kind of snarky. But at the same time, it's like he's got a bunch of people telling him, you're cooked, you're done, you're done, you're done. And this is his way of saying, hey, man, we're not done. We have an entire draft. We got an arsenal of picks. We could have as many as 15. We got a game plan. We're going to execute it. It's still going to be an incredibly young roster if they go this route. But I won't say they're done because their schedule is so favorable. And they do have a bunch of picks, and it is a deep draft. I would give them like a 10% chance of being in the deep Super Bowl run in the NFC this year, but only 10% because they're going to have 25 rookies on the team.
Yeah, Yeah, it's going to be a super young team. They need to hit on the next 2 drafts. I think the future of the Niners really hinges on that. And I think Lynch feels some pressure from Jed York. I think he feels some pressure coming off a 6-11 season. Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, this coaching staff, they're going to have to earn their high salaries because they're really going to have to coach well and develop players. And I think Lynch and Shanahan are feeling that a little bit, but they're also really good competitors. And I think that they're eager and they're ready for a challenge like this. But if they don't get it right, they could be jobless.